You are watching CBS News continuing coverage of Showdown in the Gulf. From CBS News headquarters in New York, here is Dan Rather.
Good evening. The United States of America is at war. This CBS News coverage of the Showdown in the Gulf will be on the air around the clock now. The battle over Iraq and Kuwait has begun, as President Bush's spokesman Marlin Fitzwater put it, quote, "The liberation of Kuwait has begun. At the moment, it is an air war. If there's any combat involving ground forces, we are not aware of it." At the White House, that was a terse announcement that was passed along by the official spokesman. Here it is.
The liberation of Kuwait has begun. In conjunction with the forces of our coalition partners, the United States has moved under the code name Operation Desert Storm to enforce the mandates of the United Nations Security Council. As of 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Operation Desert Storm forces were engaging targets in Kuwait and Iraq. President Bush will address the nation at 9 o'clock p.m. tonight from the Oval Office. I'll try to get you more as soon as we can. Thank you very much.
He took no questions. Desert Storm. U.S. Air Forces now are in the air, on the attack, in and over Iraq and Kuwait. In Iraq, weapons have been exploding. Reports from Baghdad say refineries are being hit. That has not been confirmed, but it is believed to be true that refineries are among the targets being struck in Iraq. And in the air, a number of Saudi Arabian cities have their air filled with the wail of air raid sirens in both Riyadh and Dhahran. Citizens, this is inside Saudi Arabia, were ordered into shelters, into bunkers, and were ordered to put their gas masks on. But no attack came at Dhahran, one of the main staging areas inside Saudi Arabia for the U.S. Air Force and for other U.S. military forces. The massive U.S. attack began about an hour ago from bases in central Saudi Arabia. The first edges of the attack officially are believed to have started as early as about 4:50 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States this afternoon. The White House had planned for the United States military to hit hard, to hit consistently, not to let up, as one military person put it, that once we go, we intend to grab them, not let go, and shake hard, into quotation. And President Bush has been as good as his promise. He said the attack would come earlier, not later, once the January 15th deadline passed, as it did last night. President Bush will be addressing the nation about 55 minutes from now. That'll be at 9 o'clock in the Eastern Time Zone. There will be a Pentagon briefing, the first of the military briefings, and that's where we'll get our first official information about the war that has started. A Pentagon briefing is scheduled immediately after the President's remarks at 9:30. CBS News in Tel Aviv, Tom Fenton, our chief European correspondent, who was once our official correspondent in Israel, is back there now, and he reports the following. The Israeli army spokesman have announced a state of emergency for Israel, a precautionary state of emergency, and the population in Israel has been instructed to open their gas mask kits to get ready, to familiarize themselves with the kits and be ready, but there have been no orders in Israel to put those gas masks on, just to have them ready and to break open the seal on the kits. All of this precautionary, keeping in mind what a short distance it is from Iraq to Israel, how many Scud missiles have been pointed at Israel, and yes, Israel has many defenses, including the defenses put up by the United States military, and while the Scud is considered to be a highly undependable weapon of limited range and accuracy, it is a threat to Israel. But I emphasize, so far as can be determined, in Israel, it is a state of emergency declared as a precaution, nothing more than that. From Amman, Jordan, a spokesman for King Hussein tells CBS News now that the palace is aware that the attack by the United States against Iraq has begun. The great siege of Iraq and Kuwait, which the United States hopes and prays can be over very quickly, has started. King Hussein does not have any official reaction yet, we're told, and the news has not yet been broadcast to the Jordanian people. Let's go quickly to CBS News correspondent Bob Schieffer, who covered the war in Vietnam and is now covering this war in and around the Persian Gulf with retired U.S. military General George Crist, keeping in mind that General Crist fairly recently commanded all U.S. forces in the Persian Gulf before he retired. Bob?
Dan, hearing you talk about the announcement that's been made about Israel being under a state of alert, a state of emergency now, General Christ, all the more ominous when we recall that news conference that Tariq Aziz, the Iraqi foreign minister, held when he said, if you are attacked, will you attack Israel? And he said, yes, absolutely. Perhaps, General Christ, here at the top of the hour, it might be well to go back and just sort of review what has happened in these last few hours. It's about 10 minutes before 7 Eastern time, I guess, when we had the first reports of light anti-aircraft fire being reported here in Baghdad. Then shortly after, the sirens sounded in Dhahran in Saudi Arabia, where our U.S. troops were. Also, air raid sirens went off in Riyadh. But in both of those cases, it's our understanding now that those were apparently just practice drills. What has happened since then, General Chris?
What has happened, Bob, is the air war has started. Now, we know the F-15E, which is a long-range fighter bomber, has already gone in. I have to assume that the F-111 fighter bombers have now also gone in. The Tornado from our allies, Marlon Fitzwater mentioned our allies. That's a good long-range fighter. The British have it, and the Saudis have it. I presume they're in the air. It's about an hour and a half or 45 minutes, depending on the aircraft, from here to the Baghdad area. I also think probably that our FA-18 aircraft, which is owned by the Marines and the Navy, and the F-16s are probably employed because they can hit in and around this area here. That's only about 20 minutes up. As far as the missiles go, the threat to Israel comes from missile sites right in here. That's about 400 miles from Israel. So it's just within the range of those missiles.
All of the targets that the U.S. planes would be hitting, many of them, the critical targets, the airfields, refineries, are between Baghdad and Kuwait. So it is your assumption from these first reports that we have heard that the thrust of the U.S. attack at this point is coming at targets in and around those areas.
Well, there's also other areas. There's two airfields, one at Mosul up here and one over in this area that also have Iraqi aircraft on them. I've got to assume those are also coming under attack. I don't think we're going to let any of those airfields go untouched.
Now, General, U.S. ground forces are arrayed in and around this area. Saddam Hussein's military, of course, is all through this area. We have no reports at this time of any movement by ground forces on either side.
We do not, and I wouldn't expect it right now, Bob. Much of what happens in the ground attack to move into Kuwait depends on how softened up we can get Saddam. How much damage can we do to him before we want to launch a ground attack?
Now, the timing of the attack, why did the president order it tonight, do you suppose?
There's 2 good days of good weather, today and tomorrow. Over the weekend, I understand it's going to rain in Baghdad, so I think they're trying to take advantage of this couple of days of good weather to get the aircraft in.
And that's what we know up until now, Dan.
Thanks, Bob and General Christ, and we'll be coming back to both Bob Schieffer and General Christ, along with retired U.S. Air Force General, recently retired Michael Dugan, who is our CBS News consultant. You'll be hearing exclusively here about this air war, the rolling thunder of air attack that has been launched tonight by the United States against Iraqi forces inside Iraq and in Kuwait, as you heard General Christ say and underscore, that this attack is expected to keep rolling. The thunders expected to keep building hour after hour, perhaps day after day. No one in the United States military has ever taken the position that air power alone could win the war, but most have taken the position that the war would start with extensive airstrikes before anything was attempted on the ground. It was mentioned there that Tariq Aziz, both in his news conference and in his interview with CBS News when we were in Baghdad just a few days ago, among the most chilling moments were when Tariq Aziz looked you straight in the eye and in answer to the question, would you attack Israel, said yes, it would be an immediate and first priority is what he told us, and then later at the news conference said absolutely. It is worth perhaps pausing when we say, well, we're going to Israel fairly often. We've talked about the state of emergency in Israel, that Saddam Hussein, in his interview with us when we were in Baghdad and interviewed him, made it very clear that while attention was focused on the Persian Gulf, that his dream, his long-range strategic mission is to lead a triumphant Arab army into Jerusalem to crush Israel, the only true democracy in the area and the United States' main ally. The other thing they emphasized was that they intended to make the world a battlefield with terrorism, and to talk about that.